Hi, Commander Kumar the Far here, and you're listening to Lave Radio. Up next is a track that I wrote based on a true story. It's called Pirates Took My Spaceship. Now, if you want to listen to more stuff that I've written, you can find that at soundcloud.com/KUMARTHEFFAR-1. Oh crap, the back!
those pieces of the puzzle always freezes on me. It's almost too late for you and me. I want to drink in the way of which he would have done, drinking like it would stop being fun at the end of the day. If I can't have you to myself, don't want anyone else. Something's gone I can't replace. Don't want anyone, anyone, anyone. Take one, a photograph you can rely on. You're wasting your time, you'll never have one. A photo of a moment complete. Pull on the best black dress you could spill wine on, and look at the tears from all his fake friends that you won't see again. And I can't have you to myself, don't want anyone else. Something's gone I can't replace. Don't want anyone. And if I can't have you to myself, don't want anyone else. Something's gone I can't replace. Don't want anyone. Don't want anyone. I wish you could see me now. I'm out in the world on my own, and I wish you could see me now. I'm out in the world on my own. 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 I'm out in the world on my own.
Galnet News Digest, 25th of February 3307. We read the news so you don't have to.
In this week's news, Cafe Nero and Odyssey delays.
Very cool narrative.
PS permits procured.
Cafe Nero and Odyssey delays. Information has emerged this week that unbelievably at least one commander already has one of the fabled Odyssey permits, which gives him the ability to land on planets with thin atmospheres, get out of his ship and walk about, to scan for and catalogue new biological data, to buy new and interesting weapons, to take missions on foot, and to blow holes in strangers he's never met. He's allowed to do the killing part because he has a bigger Peggy than most commanders, but nobody really knows why he's been granted a landing permit before everyone else.
The commander in question is Commander Cafe Nero. Many people think his name is due to his love of coffee, but it's not. It's because he likes to play the fiddle while the galaxy burns. Rumours say he has been planning a heist at one of the new settlements, but other commanders are powerless to intervene without the Odyssey permit.
Commander Cafe Nero has been feeding back tiny snippets of information about what it's like to walk about on planets. "It's very good," he said, in response to questions. He also revealed that there are toilets in space, and on planets of course, although he's not yet tried flushing one. On a rocky ice world, so he says, you can see the glittering specks of quartzite in the sand. We'll no longer see barren, dead wastes. We'll see new, exciting and infinitely variable ecosystems. He's the first commander to visit Pomesh 2C using the new mapping tools that come with the Odyssey permit, and while it looks different, he says that the planet remains stunningly beautiful, with stunning deep craters and lovely canyons. It looks, he says, insane. And most certainly not as bald as an Arthur's head, after all.
In terms of security, Commander Cafe Nero says you can walk around freely unless you do something that you shouldn't. If you're wanted, you need to steer clear of security guards who may politely ask if they can scan you, and equally politely gun you down if they find you're wanted. The penalty for littering is death. There are, says Commander Cafe Nero, a plethora of new mission types, some of which will get you wanted by the local security forces, and not in the nice way. When asked about encountering Thargoids, he asked what we wanted to know about Thargoids, but he didn't tell us anything. He hasn't tried standing in the wash of an engine to see if it's harmful, but he can confirm that being run over by an SRV is very, very painful. He can also confirm that commanders who have not paid for their Odyssey pass and who land on airless planets will not be able to see commanders who have the pass. This is because commanders with the walking around pass will be allowed to do more grown-up things, like shooting at each other, that Horizons commanders may not be old enough to witness.
Commander Cafe Nero is capturing footage of his visits to the new worlds of Odyssey, with the intention of starring in a documentary holovid of his adventures, which, if all goes well, could hit the galactic cinemas as early as next month. There's a big but under all of this, though. Commander Cafe Nero has been using the pre-alpha version of the Odyssey permit. In fact, he says it's not even the pre-alpha. Demonstrating what a git he isn't, he tried to explain that it's a branch of a trunk, but he clearly didn't have his Dyson biological scanner to hand to scan either the branch or the trunk. The pre-alpha he was using still needs lots of things added to it. For example, the correct procedure for reassembling dead humans has not yet been finalised, something commanders are likely to want ironed out before they submit themselves to the rigours of the planetary walkabout.
So this pre-alpha experience might not be quite the same as the final experience, and judging by these things that haven't been decided yet, the date for the release of the Odyssey Getting Out and Walking About permits to all commanders who want them might possibly be delayed a bit longer. Who knows? But it will be worth waiting for. Remember those toilets! Very cool narrative. Ptolemy the Seer was in action this week, making predictions about future events in the galaxy. There will be a very cool thing in 3 acts, and if you're not there, you miss it apparently. We think this might refer to a play. Plays have acts, and if you're not there, you miss them. Memorials would be coming to the galaxy, not the Tyrannisla orbital graveyard yet, but beacons that will replicate their data. So you can read the words written in memoriam in a number of locations dotted around the galaxy. Buckyballers are doing another drag strip challenge at Quarters Base apparently, and the Comfy Cannon cruise has been announced. If you join that expedition, you'll be taken by luxury fleet carrier on a 400,000 light-year cruise to every known type of life, every stellar phenomenon, and everything that has ever excited a member of the Cannon Interstellar Research Group in the galaxy, over a 3 to 4 month cruise itinerary without having to charge your frameshift drive once. That's assuming the fleet carrier owner doesn't go rogue and start forcing you to mine void opals for him in some remote location. The fleet carrier Konzu will be departing the Variety System on March the 14th, 3307 at 1500 Galactic Standard Time.
PS permits procured. campaigning news outlet Galnet News Digest has chalked up another victory this week, persuading the Pilots Federation to sort out a long-standing problem in double quick time. Up to a third of commanders using the PS4 flight control system have been reporting for several months that they were unable to land on planets despite having the Planetary Approach Suite correctly installed. Your Super Soaraway Galnet News Digest reported about this on Tuesday, encouraging those affected to write into the Pilots Federation to complain. And within a day, the Pilots Federation, under the immense pressure brought to bear on them by both our listeners, had found and fixed the problem. Now at last, all PS4 commanders can land on planets, deploy their SRV, discover they don't have an SRV, return to a starport to buy an SRV, fly back to the planet and land again, deploy their SRV properly this time, drive around an abandoned settlement, get a wheel wedged in the corner of a building, spend 20 minutes trying in vain to free the SRV, self-destruct the SRV, and find themselves back in orbit, just like all the other commanders. Let's cross now to Commander Beetlejude, who's about to mark the successful conclusion of our single-handed campaign by landing her PS4 Cobra Mark IV, which was supplied to her by the Pilots Federation, on the surface of Pamesh 2C. Commander Beetlejude, can you hear me?
I'm here, Wotherspoon. Yes, I'm about to land on Pamesh 2C.
The canyons are spectacular there, aren't they? What's it like to see a planet close up for the first time?
It's really exciting. I'm using the famous PS4 DualShock control system. It provides the sort of haptic feedback that the thrustmaster just can't deliver. Beautifully engineered, with all the important controls conveniently laid out. It's like it's made from hand. Oh my god, I just tried to deploy my landing gear. The button's mapped to boost.
Well, it sounds like something must have gone wrong there. We'll obviously send a search party. Right, well, never mind. That was this week's Galnet News. Galnet News, Jude read the news, so you didn't have to.
The Lave Radio project was our last best hope for news. A self-contained podcast 2 hours long, located in neutral territory. A place of nonsense and innuendo for forum dads, community members, and developers. A shining beacon in space. All alone on a Tuesday night. It was the dawn of the 3rd chapter of Elite. The year Space Lakes came upon us all. This is the story of the last of the Ladian stations. The year is 3307. The name of the place? Lave Radio.
Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 331 of Lave Radio, the show that likes to talk about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. I'm your host, Commander Phoenix Defire, Chief Archivist of Lave Station, otherwise known as Colin Ford, and joining me in the Orange Sidewinder Bar for this episode, we have our Head of Health and Safety, Commander Aid Levice, that's Ben Moss Woodward.
Give me a second. I'm just trying to sow my seeds everywhere and get everything into all the places, or at least clean up after myself.
Inhuman Resources Director, Commander Shan.
Hello, Colin. Just very quickly, you sound less than enthused when you introduce Ben. I think you should give it another go to give him the enthusiasm he deserves.
We didn't sound particularly thrilled to introduce you, Shan.
I wasn't listening.
You didn't have push to listen on.
We have our Deputy Trade Attaché, Commander Souverain.
What up?
So you want me to introduce Ben again, but with the real level of enthusiasm I feel?
Once more with feeling, Colin.
Okay. Coming up next, we got Ben Moss Woodward, Head of Health and Safety, otherwise known as Adler Royce.
Fucking lad, my son's calling me.
Is that better?
I like that content. This is.
Were you supposed to be a drunk Jasper Carrot?
That's what happens. That's what happens when you've been forced to live in the Hill Zone for 5 years. All right. Now, if you wish, you can join us live. We are hanging out in game and open. Ben is flying around the. Which system were you flying around, Ben?
Why so serious?
There you go. Obviously, don't ask him how he got his scars. But if you can't get in-game, you can join us on the Twitch chat channel, which you can access through laveradio.com/live. Click on the live chat and at Twitch TV/laveradio. Well, we are... we'll just go around the crew and see how they've been for the last week or so. So we'll start this week with Commander Souverain.
I've been good. I've been really good. I'm powering ahead with a new project, which is going really well. And I have been I've been planning a trip for now that the light is at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Some friends and I are excitedly planning a trip. We are gonna we've already hired 2 cottages for 2 different weekends in April and May on the Isle of Skye. And rented a camper van, and we're going to go up there for a week and drink good whiskey and go for long walks and have fires and lark about and play games and such. And as it gets closer to the time, we'll cancel one of the cottages if it looks like it'll be too soon. We've got one booked for the end of April, and that might end up being too soon, depending on Nicola Sturgeon's whims. In which case we'll go with another booking we've got in May. But we figured we'd get 2 that have no cancellation charge, so we can go with the one that is.
So you're going cottaging then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going cottaging, and I've also been my Total War Warhammer Odyssey continues. Atris and Polish Dan and I are continuing our little menage a trois with that game, and I have another recruit, somebody called. Actually, one of the patrons at Sagai called Kinetis, who's also a Lave listener, wrote to me, pinged me last week saying, "Hey, is this the game you've been talking about on Lave Radio?" And I said yes, and he said, I'm interested in it. My son paints them, and I'm interested in yada yada. And I encouraged him to get it, and he did. And he told me yesterday that he's been absolutely loving it, and possibly might have an appetite for co-op. So my little gang of Total Warhammer fans might be growing, which is quite exciting. So I've been marshalling lots of Skaven, slaughtering lots of greenskins, and generally doing all that sort of thing this week.
Excellent. Well, to continue with the positivity, we're going over to Commander Shan.
Yes, what I've been doing in game this week. Yes, I popped over to Hot Jupiter with my 3rd account to gather some engineering mats and get some more kills. And then I proceeded on my journey on my 2nd commander to Beagle Point So that kept me out of mischief in game. And in real life, I have been trying to not buck the system, but I've been curious as to why some people in our area have been getting COVID jabs and others have not. And so I kind of scratched my head, and I had to phone the doctors up to give some other details to them. And I asked a question. I said, "Well, look, what's the process?" And they said, "Oh, well, if you have to phone up 119 to book your appointment to get done." I said, "Okay, thank you very much." So I phoned up 119, and they said, "Oh, you have to contact your GP to get an appointment." And I was like, "Well, hang on." They just said, so it's in one of these process circles. So if anyone's surgery is a bit unclear of what the rules are now, the rules are if you have a precondition, you phone up the doctor's surgery and get them to book the appointment. If it's just an age thing, you wait for the letter and then you book the appointment through the website or 119. And the reason for that is apparently is because 119 doesn't know your medical history. So, but your doctor does. So that took me all afternoon. Anyway, I'm getting done on Thursday at the end of that. But I thought it'd be worth sharing because since the system changed, it seems lots of doctor surgeries around the countries and indeed 119 people don't really know what the process was yet. So if you're worried, you think you've been missed out, phone your GP up and follow the loop. So that was my very helpful public information broadcast.
Excellent. Ben, what have you been up to this week?
My real life has been fairly busy, so continuing on with family drama, but that's all improving. It looks like I may have sold a house. So,
hey!
Did you own the house, or did you just sell someone else on the side of the road?
I did in fact own the house, or I still do technically own the house, but I will hopefully not own the house come the beginning of June. Sorry.
Beers are on Ben.
Yeah. Ben has many scary things between now and June, sadly. But
You've got the Hope stamp duty.
Well, it's a house over in Netherlands as well, so there's all kinds of things I need to worry about. But I did the whole signing of the document thing today, which, due to my real name being double-barreled, wound up confusing the hell out of their system. I was Moss Woodward, no spaces, Moss Woodward spaces, and finally, it took them 3 attempts to actually spell my last name correctly for the automated DocuSign thing to say, well, I can see your passport, I can see that your name matches your passport. That's all right then.
So do you have a middle name that would
several
make
middle names as well?
So it's Ben Tarquin Moss Woodward doesn't fit in the line. Then is that what you're?
Being serious, when I had to fill out, when you were filling out our forms for exams, and it's like, please enter your full name. My full name would not fit into that box for filling out your names.
So did that mean you lost marks? Because you're supposed to get 2 marks, don't you, for filling the name incorrectly? So did you always lose marks because you couldn't?
That would explain why I never got 100%. This makes so much sense now.
That is the explanation for why you never got 100%.
It is, yeah. So that was that. I did have my week was made though by NASA answering one of my tweets. So that made me all excited. Nice. I asked them how are all their astronauts sleeping when they're doing crew handover, and they were like, yeah, basically people are going to be camping out on the ISS. I was like, that.
Did you?
So they're camping outside the space station just to hang over.
I think that it sounds like at the moment they had 7 berths in the ISS. And the last resupply mission sent up an 8th bed. But when you've got crew 1 and crew 2 doing their handover, sorry, not hangover.
Although there's probably a
11
hangover
people.
involved as well.
I don't know if they're allowed to get drunk on the ISS. Probably not. I think there's going to be 11 people on the ISS, because you'll have the 3 from the Soyuz, the current 4 from Crew 1, and then the other 4 from Crew 2, so there's going to be 11 folks on the ISS.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like one of these student parties when you have about 30 people in a 4-bedroom house and there's people like sleeping all over the place.
People sleeping in the hallways, they've already had one of the guys is already sleeping in Crew 1's their ship. But they're talking about people sleeping basically in the hallways.
So as they call it, like Operation Goldilocks, who's been sleeping in my bed?
I thought they'd just do a hot bunk or something, but I have no idea.
And do they share beds? Do they bunk up together? Do you know?
I suspect. Well, I'm not going to go there. These are proper scientific characters, and I'm not going to imagine.
People.
They still have leaves to sleep though, Ben. So surely they must.
But I'm not going to be going into who's sleeping in whose bed.
Right.
I've got too much respect for all of them. And game-wise, same old stuff. What time I've had's been spent between Elite, Star Citizen, RimWorld, and actually that's it. I think Elite, Star Citizen, RimWorld this week.
Right, well, let's see what's quickly been happening with me. I've taken a little time off from Elite on every space game. I've been playing the Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which I've been thoroughly enjoying before I probably splash out on Cyberpunk. Just wanted to get that good old Cyberpunk feel back into my system. But I will be back in the Elite universe either tonight or tomorrow. Obviously, personally, I've had my jab, and I just put it this way: if you've had COVID and you get the Pfizer, the side effects are for a day awful. It's like having it all over again. But then after that, you're completely fine. So there's a bit of information for you.
I mean, I haven't had mine yet, but my amateur thinking is, if you have bad side effects, just think what the real disease would do to you. If the side effects are bad, if you see what I mean.
Well, no, it's a known thing that if you've had the virus, the vaccine goes into overdrive as soon as you've had it. So, yeah,
so it's triggering your body to go, oh shit, this is happening to me again? No!
Yeah. It's actually in France, they're saying, aren't they, that you only need 1 dose if you've had it. That's one of the reasons why they're trying to string their doses out on stuff like that.
Yeah, well, so that's basically been me, because I lost a day and a half to recovering from the blooming jab. So yay! So that's me. Now we are also joined by the mistress in charge of Lavecon herself. We have Karen with us. Hello, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you absolutely fine. It's so nice to hear you. We haven't heard from you for quite a while.
I know. Essentially, we've been kind of hibernating and waiting for the world to, be a world a little bit, because it's, particularly in the events world, I'm sure you can imagine, it is so hard to make any kind of prediction about, what's going on, where are we at, what are we doing? And so we kind of work on things, but then you get to a point and you're like, yeah, maybe I'll leave that till a bit closer.
Yeah.
So we are running behind our usual schedule. Obviously, normally we would put, tickets out around sort of, January or Christmas when we've been really organised. But needless to say, this year's been a little bit different.
Yeah, it has been different. I think that's the understatement of the year. So, you've got something to tell us, maybe about a Lavecon?
Yeah. So we've decided, in light of the various government announcements, I mean, don't get me wrong, we know nothing is set in concrete government announcements or not, but in light of the current government announcements, they have said that they would like the world to be open by sort of mid-June sometime. And I know before anybody points out that they said from mid-June, they didn't say by mid-June. So we get it. But if their approximate timescale is even slightly accurate, who knows? Then obviously we're good to go ahead for Lavecon, right?
Yes, I think so.
So
Yay.
that's the plan.
So the plan, so essentially, is if nothing goes wrong and they've got the numbers right, and there's no social distancing whatsoever by the end of June, Lavecon's on.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we might be encouraging people to consider hand sanitizing, to consider face masks, particularly if they feel like they've got a bit of a cold or something, and if they're feeling actually ill, please don't come. Because while we can make these predictions, we know that COVID is not going to 100% go away at all. But obviously, hopefully things will be a lot safer in terms of people who, a majority of the people who are perhaps at risk, hopefully by then have had both vaccines. So those of us who are perhaps a bit more healthy, and I'm not always healthy, but my immune system is rocking. Hopefully the rest of us, might be near a vaccine, or at least might be willing to socialise on the basis that we're not putting others at risk. So that's the hope. Obviously, if there was 2 metre social distancing in place, we can't run. Could you imagine the main room of Lavecon with everybody 2 metres apart? We would spill into the car park. It just wouldn't be achievable. Yeah. So we've discussed that with the hotel, and we've agreed that on the current plan, we will go ahead. So we are releasing tickets on the 9th of April, which hopefully gives everybody enough notice that they've had at least one payday before then.
Yep.
And we are releasing actual tickets. Last year we did reserve tickets when we weren't quite sure, which was kind of a bit of a pay us if it goes ahead situation. But we've decided, no, we're going to be confident. We're going to go full out. We're releasing actual tickets, and the sort of first wave of them, as I said, coming out on the 9th of April. Obviously, we've got some that have rolled over from last year, which is brilliant. So some people have already got their tickets. Good job. And as I said, we'll be putting tickets out. Now, I will hold a few back, which might be in case we have need for extra volunteers, and might also be for people who are perhaps concerned about their health if they haven't had the vaccine, etc. But because not everybody who should be on the doctor's list necessarily are, although hopefully they're all contacting their GPs and sorting that out. But 1 or 2 people might be still a bit nervous by the 9th of April, so we'll keep a few back in case there's any specific circumstances, or people who have got access needs and therefore couldn't, for example, camp or come from another hotel that they need to be on site and they need a hotel room. So we always try and keep a few back just to make sure that everybody's included. I appreciate it's also going to be difficult for international visitors, might not be able to commit by the 9th of April. So again, we will absolutely do our best to accommodate anybody later on. So although the first wave will go out, if it does sell out, which it might not given the circumstances, but if it does sell out like it often does, then we will still have a few tickets. So if people are in dire straits rather than I didn't log on to my computer in time, then we do encourage them to get in contact. And even if it's a question of, I didn't log on to my computer in time, we will have a waiting list then for any tickets, if tickets become available after people have contacted us about access needs, that kind of thing. There might be some last minute tickets or last minute cancellations if people, get ill and don't want to come and risk the rest of us, etc.
Excellent. Shan, get your word in.
I completely understand this may be one of these we don't know yet, we won't ever know yet until the last minute kind of thing. But my question is regarding maximum numbers. Have the hotels said that, because usually Lavecon sells out pretty quickly, all the rooms are gone, but then you have the bronze tickets, you can just turn up and enjoy the day. So has there been any indication that you will need to limit numbers at the moment?
I mean, there is an absolute limit. There is a fire limit on the hotel, but we've never hit it yet. But I'm not aware that there would be a new limit. That's what I said about social distancing. In most places for events, they're limiting number to allow social distancing, to allow circulation of people, to allow fresh air to come in between the people. If that's in place, and therefore a maximum limit that's lower than usual, and then we won't have the event. So to reassure those people, if you do book and the event doesn't go ahead for COVID reasons or for any reason at our end, frankly, we will of course refund tickets if that people want, or roll them on to 2022, which I know might seem like madness for those people who paid more than a year ago, that actually they might attend the event 2 years later. But we'll do what we can. Obviously, it's up to people then how, whether they want the money back or whether they want the surety of ticket next time. So essentially, as I said, we are assuming no extra limits.
So do you have a date where you have to have everything locked down by?
Realistically, probably need to know a month before the event. I mean, the hotel has been so flexible with us. They obviously love having us there, which is brilliant as an event organizer. It's lovely that we are welcomed back.
I don't know why.
With open arms every year. And in terms of the contract and everything, because obviously last year we could never have predicted, when we signed a contract with the hotel, and we paid several £1,000s in a deposit, and then COVID hit, we had no idea what our rights or the situation or what we could expect the hotel to do, or any, I don't think anybody did, because nobody had predicted this, or at least not anybody who was talking to me. But the hotel have been brilliant. They rolled our deposit onto the next year. They said yes, they'll keep the rates the same. They've been absolutely lovely. So, we are confident that if there are any last minute issues, as I said, hopefully we can confirm. We aim to confirm a month before the event for numbers and where we're at with the hotel. But I'm pretty confident that if anything came up in that month or there was any problems, they are going to bend over backwards to be as lovely to us as possible. So yeah, they're good guys at the said for it.
Yeah, they are. And for those first-time Laveconners, is there a Facebook page, newsletter that they can sign up to keep up to the?
Yes, the website is not up to date, so apologies. So there will be information on the Lave Radio website. There will be information on the HWS events website. There is also the Lavecon Facebook group. There is a Lavecon Twitter account. You can sign up for the HWS mailing list on the HWS event website. There's a link there for the mailing list. So yeah, lots of ways to stay in touch. We're on Discord, on the Lave Radio server. We've got a Lavecon Discord, and we do our best to check all of those places and make sure that we keep up to date. If you have a specific query about your actual circumstances that you don't want to post in public, or you don't think is relevant to other people to see in public, you can always email us at admin@hwsevents.co.uk, and just drop me a line and I will do my absolute best to answer it.
I think you've missed a potential newsletter route here, Karen. You and Dr. Stroud need to do a TikTok dance.
Yeah, I haven't ventured onto TikTok. I have to confess, we are on Instagram and we are all sorts of places. But I might draw a line at TikTok. I think I'm too old for TikTok.
Just the thought of Alan doing a TikTok dance is mind burning.
Yeah, nobody needs that in their life, at least for me.
No, not really.
Should I admit to not knowing what a TikTok dance even is?
You've obviously not got a teenage daughter.
You're supposed to be younger and hipper than I am.
Sue knows. Sue will explain it to you.
I actually don't. I gather it's a dance you do on a social media platform called TikTok, right?
I have heard of TikTok. They're those minty things that come in little tubs, don't you? You shake them.
That's one like polos. But
welcome to Dad Radio, everyone.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Karen. Very
You're
nice to hear
very
from you.
welcome.
And of course, if we have any more questions, we'll pass them on to you. And if you want to come back on the show closer to the time, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody didn't get the HWS email address, I do also receive emails through the Lave Radio email address, info@Lave Radio. So yeah, you can get hold of me most places. It's all good.
Excellent.
Cool. All
Right.
right, take care. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Cheers, Karen. Bye. So there we have it, a Lave Radio exclusive. As long as everything goes to plan, Lavecon is on this year.
We're screwed then.
No, I have utmost
You have
confidence.
faith.
I have utmost confidence that there will be a Lavecon this year. I've been so looking forward to having a physical Lavecon since last year. It just has to happen. Sorry, it has to happen. I missed everyone too much.
Aww.
Get ready. Lave Radio.
Welcome back. So let's have a quick discussion about the development news that has happened this week. Number one headline is that Elite Dangerous has come to the Xbox Games Pass. So basically, if you've got the Games Pass, you now have Elite Dangerous available to you on your Xbox. Arv tried to do a personal stream from his Xbox on Thursday, but I wasn't able to catch it. Did anybody else manage to catch it?
He managed to do a personal stream from his account. He had issues getting Bruce into the chat, but I think Bruce did eventually make it in. It was nice to see the Xbox getting some love for a change, and he was playing on one of the fancy new Xboxes as well, so it looked very, very shiny.
Ooh, one of the show-off ones.
Yeah, very shiny, very good frame rates and all that kind of good stuff. Just issues getting the full streaming working with him and Bruce, but yeah, it was last minute as ever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, at least there was something, but there wasn't an official Thursday night stream this week. Next piece of news. In-game memorials. There was a post on the forums, or a couple of posts actually. They have announced that they're going to be putting in player memorials, which will be held in game. These will be. There was a lot of discussion last year about. A lot of requests rather for loved ones to be memorialized in the game, and they've come up with a solution which is effectively there will be memorial beacons in the following 6 systems that will feature an epitaph and a list of names. Those systems will be Sol, Akina, Alioth, Shinrata Dedra, Colonia, Acellus Primus, and Dromi. I guess in this case, they're planning to put it in the next 3 weeks, and the names will be updated periodically every few months at all the locations. And this will allow any visitor to see the full list at any of the beacons at any given time. So, Shan, do you want to have a quick chat about that?
Yeah, well, I won't talk about the obvious thing because I know Ben will want to have his say on that. But I was going to sort of like say about the method in which they have asked for the names. I'm a little bit, if you like, not concerned is the wrong word, I guess, but it all seems too easy. Put a name in a forum post and it will go in game. And if you have too many of these things, and the amount of loss and grief that's been in the elite community is, I won't say tremendous, but it's been too much. There's been too many commanders and too many friends and family of commanders who have passed since the game went out. So I completely understand that. And if you make it just too easy, does it not cheapen having those names in there? If you see where I'm coming from. So, it's like everyone can be a special star. And I don't know. you could end up, and I'm sure it hasn't happened, but potentially you could have people's pets in there. Now, I know people love pets, and I'm going to get flamed to death for this, but I don't know. There should be some way of, if you like, measuring a
In other words,
name in there.
you want to filter out the daft ones, so you want to filter out the people that.
Yeah, because like I say, I really miss Commander McCommander face. And would that go in there, even though just kind of made up Commander McCommander face for a bit of a laugh? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one thing that has to be taken on trust. And if there is some rude names or stupid things that have gone in there, well, then it's the shame of the people that put it in my opinion.
I really liked Commander Phil McCracken.
Well, yeah, I mean, or Commander Whale Oil Beef Hooked. So,
Commander Biggin, Ivor Biggin.
I mean, the system, yeah, it is open to abuse, but I still think it's a nice gesture, and it takes a little bit of heat off the team because they don't like saying no to this kind of thing. Yeah. The other thing that I have to point out about this, and I'm sure Ben, do you want to touch on it?
I think by the other thing you're meaning the location and what we're actually going to get.
Yeah.
So I actually think the locations make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice having it in a variety of places, including Sol and Dromi and Acellus Primus. Because that's places from all the beginning. That's from all the beginning places, plus the place where a lot of commanders go to hang out and things like that. But I'm assuming what you're wanting me to say is, why isn't it in Tion Isla?
It was one of the. I did mention that on the forum, saying that a lot of people who've read the Dark Wheel would have wanted it in Tion Isla or Tion Isla or however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, once I'd posted that, I thought, actually, that's a cheap shot. Just the fact that these memorial beacons are in are good enough, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, the places it's a good set of locations. It's nice that it's getting distributed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, for lore reasons, I would like it to be in. What I'm more concerned about is, will these be some custom artwork that's had some effort put into it, or will it just be, here's a satellite and a list of names? That's what worries me. We've been told they're going to be commemorative beacons or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. From what I understand, there will be a message of sympathy at the top, and then just a list of names. You won't have a line of text for every person. You'll just have their name.
But will it be the regular beacon satellite that we have? That, for example, you go outside Lave Station, and there's a satellite there telling you a bit of the history of Lave Station. Is it going to be that?
So. I imagine so, because
And I really hope that they do a satellite equivalent of, like, the Immortal Flame or something, the Flame or something like that. I just hope they do something a bit more poignant than, here's a satellite.
Shan?
Yeah, I was going to argue slightly against what Ben was saying. I think the choice of systems they've given is potentially quite poor, because 5 out of the 7 systems require permits, and once you've been to Dromi, you can't go back. So that doesn't leave you many systems to go and visit them in. And as for the Tion Isla graveyard, I mean, yes, I kind of get what you're saying about, we should move on, but people have been wanting to see the Tion Isla graveyard for 39 years. Robert Holstock, who wrote the Dark Wheel novel, died before he saw Elite Dangerous. So you kind of feel as though there's such a weight of history and lore, and almost you want to give a tribute to the author of the novella, Robert Holstock, to have it at Tion Isla. It kind of has to be there. And as for the nature of it, well, when they said the beacons, I kind of had the image of the Red Dwarf episode, where they have the ring and it's all full of these little Rimmer coffins.
Rimmer beacons, yeah.
Rimmer beacons. I thought I had something like that in mind. And if he is at Tier Nisler, I don't know. It kind of, in my view, it has to be there. There's so much history. There's so much expectation, and the fact you could use it to remember the author of the novella that started the lore, it kind of just makes it a perfect place for me.
Hiya, Suv.
Ref Tia Nisler. I wonder whether. So broadly, I think that this solution is the right one. I think that I think that given that Frontier have set the precedent that they will put more memorials in for commanders who ask for it. This is the way to do it, which allows them to concentrate on improving the game and gives people recognition in the game that they love for their loved one. But regarding Tia Nisler as a venue, I wonder whether it was looked at but decided against because it might be considered a little bit tasteless. And just to explain what I mean there, like the Tia Nisler graveyard is a famous graveyard in the lore, and it's the scene of sort of quite a few kind of like it's in a few. It's in the books. It's the books are quite pulpy. The books generally are action books. They're not like they're not sort of they're not like family dramas or I can't really think of the words to explain what I mean. And I wonder whether Frontier looked at it and thought that actually sticking a load of real people's names in there might actually be considered a little bit tasteless, and actually some people might object to being immortalized in a scene in a setting which is kind of has been like in loads of action scenes and pulp novels, if that makes sense. I'm just thinking out loud, really.
Right. Okay, Shan.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try and move quickly. I can kind of see where Suv comes from, but it would be like having, I don't know, just having Arlington Cemetery, just a field with nothing in it. Or, I mean, I haven't been there, but I've been to the cemeteries around the D-Day beaches, and they are incredibly moving. They just stun you in how perfectly well done these D-Day cemeteries are. And it would almost feel to me as if not having the Tia Nisler graveyard, it's almost like the elite version of that to not have anything at Tia Nisler. And I don't know. It's a difficult one. I can see where Sue's coming from, but I think in my mind, there's so much for having something there. And to be fair, if you didn't want your friend or whoever it was, remembered at Tia Nisler, don't put their name forward. Have it another way. So I'm sorry, but it just has to be. There's so much weight of history behind that in game lore. You can't have a Tia Nisler graveyard without a graveyard.
Okay, Suverine.
I think you make a really good point about Tia Nisler. I have thoroughly agreed with this for 6 years. There should be something in Tia Nisler. It would be great. It'd be really, really cool if there were a load of gently spinning shipwrecks in Tia Nisler that you could drop into and have a contemplative moment. I don't think that needs to be the memorial for real world losses. I think you make a really good point that if you are emailing Frontier Developments asking to have your grandmother's name put into Elite Dangerous, you're probably not going to be too prissy about seeing their name in against the Tia Nisler graveyard. That is a really, really good point. I think that Frontier are right to think that to try and put a little bit of distance between real life loss and sort of scenes from in their video game, if that makes sense. I think the right thing to do is to have a static asset that is not within fiction, just there as a memorial, rather than trying to tie those real world losses to in-game lore, if that makes sense.
Okay, Ben.
Whilst I can see what Sue's saying, it's like saying, well, I don't think that people should be buried in Arlington Cemetery because several films have been set there. and a whole load of films have been set there, and books have been set there, and characters have been murdered while walking around there.
Well, not really, because Arlington Cemetery is a cemetery.
Also been referenced in fiction.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to die on this hill. It was an idle thought, and it was probably a bullshit one. I think Arlington Cemetery is a cemetery first and foremost.
Oh, it really is an incredibly poignant location.
Yeah, whereas Elite Dangerous is a video game first and foremost, not a cemetery. But I take your point.
I do think that I'd just like to make this final point, is that normally this would be a place where you'd hope that this would be for fallen players of the game, for other players to remember them by, not great Uncle Harry who had nothing to do with Elite Dangerous. That's what I'd like to think. I'd like to think this is really for people that we have lost.
Fallen Commanders
over the last period.
My experience of memorials is that it won't be. It'll be predominantly family members.
See, I would rather. I mean, talk about the locations. The systems they've chosen aren't exactly the choicest ones, I would say, for a memorial. I mean, there are some planetary nebula systems, and even Ghost of Jupiter is quite close, for example. Just have it somewhere spectacular, not just boring old Achenar.
Right. Okay. Well, we're kind of going around in circles there, so we're going to leave the memorials, and we'll probably come back to it at a later point. Now, on Friday, there was a Q&A which was published about weapons. Now, obviously, this was handheld weapons. So there was about 10 or so questions, most of which we've seen before. Now, does anybody, before Shan before Shan jumps in on this one, does anybody have anything that jumped out at them on these questions?
Let Shan go for it.
Because we all know what he's going to do. Because there was one question which was: could players throw grenades at ships and expect to deal significant damage if it's unshielded? And
give us both barrels, Shan. Unleash.
Yeah, and the answer was yes, and we look forward to watching it happen. And as soon as I saw that question, I thought, "Oh God, here we go." So, Shan, off you go.
Do Frontier think they're in a cartoon for this? It's just completely stupid idea. And I'm sorry for being a bit rude about this, but you've got a handheld device, a grenade or even a rocket launcher, and you're expecting to damage multi-hundred-ton ships, or even tens of ton ships, with hulls that can resist bashing into a space station at over 100 meters a second, and you're supposed to have a handheld device to damage them. Because if they damage them, I don't want my Class 4 beam lasers and my Class 4 cannons and my plasma accelerators. I want to have 8 tons of these handheld weapons all piled up on top of each other. I don't know. I know why they're trying to do it, because they're trying to replicate a kind of Battlefield XYZ or Call of Duty combat mechanic where 2 rockets will shoot down a ship or something like that. I don't know. I just don't get how you can balance this.
I don't think it is like this. I mean, I can understand that sort of if you look at a modern world equivalent, a couple of hand grenades can easily damage or make inoperable a fighter. So
Colin, destroy a battle tank.
Yeah, but they don't damage a battle tank, Colin. And the fighters, to be fair, they're built to be lightweight. They're built for a specific purpose. They're not built to withstand explosive devices. They're just lightweight. They're not built for the same thing.
Shan, I'm not the one doing this. Don't shout at me. Okay.
Sorry for shouting at you, but it just gets my. I don't know.
Severine, are you a little bit less angry?
No, I'm equally angry. I'm very, very angry because I feel like Shan has delivered otherwise a perfectly acceptable piece of Frontier criticism, but he has completely failed to add the crucial phrase, which is Frontier have really dropped the ball this time.
Or
I'm
dropped a grenade.
absolutely livid.
I had to
Yeah.
give you something to say, Sue.
Right. So basically, the questions were: will anti-vehicle weapons be available? It said yes. All weapons can be used against ships, except some are far more effective than others, mostly explosives. Will players be equipped with a weapon immediately upon launch? Yes, everyone's got a sidearm. Will there be melee weapons? No, players will be able to attack. Players will be able to attack melee when close, but there are no specific melee weapons. So that reminds me of basically the good old Mass Effect punch.
You can slap someone around the head with your beam laser.
Yeah, basically with your rifle butt or your elbow.
I'm not touching anyone with my butt, thank you very much.
Is anybody touching yours?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, Colin, can I just throw you in and have a slightly more reasoned explanation? Now that I've got it off my chest, yes, I mean the people who are discussing this are quite right. Is we don't know the amount of damage that will be done. We don't know the exact kind of numbers on this, and that is completely correct. And I say that we don't know how it's going to work. But my point is what I said earlier: is if you make the amount of damage they call too trivial, you may as well not have them damage the ship at all. If you make it too great, you then run into the question, as I said, well, why don't all the ships have these weapons in instead of these stonking great anti-ship weapons? And you hit a whole credibility wall if you have that. And that's why I think balancing of them is going to be really difficult. And I would hope, I would hope they sort of take a logical view of this, because the last thing I want to see are players bringing down multiple 1,000-ton corvettes and cutters with handheld rocket launchers.
Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they are referring to basically the Sidewinder, aren't they? They're not. It is one of these things. We will have to wait and see how this one plays out, because at the moment everyone's saying, "Oh, you can damage a ship, an unshielded ship, by throwing these things," but you can't. You can't wipe out a Corvette or an Anaconda with a couple of handheld missiles and a grenade. Sovereign.
Just Shan said nothing. If the damage is trivial, there's no point in having it. I actually disagree with that. I'm a strong proponent of having things in video games which are trivial in terms of gameplay impact, but excellent nonetheless, because I think it adds to verisimilitude. Like, for example, if your handheld weapon did some damage to your handheld rocket launcher did some damage to an Anaconda, but it was so trivial that that it would never be used even by the insane and curious as a way to deal damage, as a way to take out an aggressor, then what that would the sense of immersion that would give was that this is a real world. It reacts to you in plausible ways. It behaves the way you expect it would, and crucially, it does react to you. It doesn't just ignore you. The problem with binary things like this weapon does affect this and this weapon doesn't is that it kind of reminds everybody all the time that it's a video game. If that makes any sense.
Bitstorm has asked, "Can you punch ships?"
Well, but just again thinking through this, a bit more. I mean, Colin mentioned about you can damage a Sidewinder. Well, a Sidewinder fully laden is still in excess of 40 tons. These aren't small things. These aren't light aircraft or even modern spaceships, which are designed for lightness. These things have weight. They have armor, and in thought to what Sue was saying, I mean, I thought about this because I can see the need to deter people landing their big ships on top of players and basically ruffle stomping the whole I don't know. I can get the need why they're doing that. However, I would say don't look at actually damaging the ship. Have it something like it disrupts the modules of the ship. So you get too close, I don't know, maybe knocks your drives out, or it damages your life support, or something like that. Because you could have an EMP device or something like that as handheld that could have a temporary deterrent effect on a ship. Or even if you wanted to, and I saw it suggested in the forum, which I thought was a great idea, is have player placeable, like emplacements, they could then control remotely. So you could actually attack the emplacements, and that would be a plausible way in which a ship could be damaged. But throwing grenades at 40, 50-ton ships, I don't know. It doesn't sit. Particularly when you listen to Discovery Scanners by Dr. K. Ross, you look at the incredible amount of detail and research that's gone into making this galaxy. Tacking this on the end of that, I don't know. It just doesn't. Just feels cheap.
Okay, well, we're going to move on from this one now. Let's quickly cover the others. Questions. Will there be a aiming reticle always on screen? They said yes, because this reticle is used more than just combat. Will weapons allow you to look down the sights? Yes, you'll be able to do that, although different scopes are available through engineering, which I thought was quite interesting. What kind of weapons will there be? There's going to be a further explanation on this. There's going to be pistols, rifles, SMGs, shotguns, rocket launchers, and obviously grenades. Will players be able to upgrade their weapons with attachments? Now, let's have a think of this one. You can choose from several attachments for your weapons. However, a modified weapon cannot be reverted, so think carefully. You can own multiple copies of a weapon for different situations, but you can only carry a limited number of them at a time, depending on your suit type. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I like the look of that.
Yeah.
But why are we only allowed to have one modification to a weapon before you scrap it?
Because this isn't Doom.
That sounds like that sounds a terrible answer. Actually, that sounds a lazy crap answer. Like there isn't really a good. I mean, I'm not necessarily immediately leaping behind Shan that we definitely need to have more than one modification per weapon. But I don't think we need to. I don't think Frontier need to actively avoid being like a really successful shooter. I mean, they might have thought that that actually, in terms of the engineering effects, having more than one modification per weapon would be confusing and just unbalance the game too much, maybe.
Yes, because there's such things as you have. I forgot the proper name for them, and Kyle probably moaned at me for not remembering. But you have these mounting rails that allows you to change the sight, or you have an attachment to put a silencer on. You can basically, there are attaching points that you can fit modifications to a weapon even today and just swap them out.
Right, well, obviously everyone's not happy with that one either. Okay, final question was, can you drop items for your friends to use? The answer is yes. Players can pick up and use your dropped items. However, this does not include ammunition. It's only inventory items, so you're kind of stuck with your ammo. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. At least we'll end it with something. Also, today there was an additional stream. Arf is in chat telling Bruce that he needs to blur his background. However, some secrets were revealed. That there's some gameplay being demonstrated this Thursday on the live stream, and there will be Twitch drops. Big stuff, but it will be happening at 4 p.m. Thursday, not the usual 7 p.m. So I don't know whether or not this means that they say they're going to have extra devs coming on and there's going to be interviews. I don't know whether or not this means it's 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. or it's just 4 p.m. for a couple of hours, but it does feel like something big is happening with this one. Shan?
Yeah, I was just looking at the whiteboard, and I'm wondering, did he do that in his own spare time, or do you think he was tasked with coming up with that notice board?
Well, judging by the fact that it says Stephen was here, it might have been Stephen.
So are we saying Frontier community managers have broken social distancing and lockdown? Because if Stephen was here, then is he in Bruce's bubble?
Maybe the board has been passed around, but not the people. That board could have been delivered there.
So he's like a get well card. You sort of scrawled your Odyssey graffiti on the board and passed it around.
Yeah, I mean, the upshot of all this is this Thursday something big's coming on the live stream, so we shall wait with bated breath, I guess. Right.
Doesn't say which Thursday.
Oh dear.
I think it'll be this Thursday.
Honestly, Shan, sometimes I think Marvin the Paranoid Android was more optimistic than you.
I'm just stating a fact. It doesn't say which Thursday, does it?
Doesn't say which game. Could be for Jurassic World Evolution.
It says secret, doesn't it? Oh, it could be like Zoo Tycoon because there's some sort of flower on top.
Yeah. I reckon it's not even for Elite Dangerous. That's what I think. And I am angry about it, and I think Frontier have dropped the ball. That's what I think.
Lave Radio? It's even louder than me. Wait a minute. That can't be right.
Right. Well, so we're going to cover the in-game events now. So first of all, the Galactic Summit is imperiled by political fracture. Oh, someone has mucked about with the order on this. I had it in the date order. This stuff came up. So first of all, is the CG started, which was to keep the conference safe. The Galactic Summit begins with a defense request for the summits to go across safely. Apparently, this CG is still in progress even after all this time. So if you want to get hold of it, they've got some nice Viper ship skins which are available. I saw them demonstrated on the stream today. It's 75% you get a nice sort of gold one, and then at 25% you get a different one which looks just as nice, and the top 10 is it a federal gunship? I'm assuming so, judging by the silence. Right, so we've had lots of things happen, which is obviously the Galactic Summit. The rare goods had been successfully delivered, so that all these conference people are going to be well fed and watered. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of fractious goings on between the various factions, but overall everyone's saying it's going well. So what does everybody think of this storyline at the moment?
What do you think, Colin?
What do I think? I'm enjoying it.
Me too.
I quite like the way they've brought everything together. Although I must admit, I was expecting basically a big mushroom cloud over Sirius at that particular moment on Thursday, but nothing like that happened. So
yeah, there was potential for it. There was potential for.
Not too late. It's not too late.
Yeah, because this conference is going on for 3 weeks, so anything can happen in the next 3 weeks. Well, 2.5.
It's worse than the G7 meeting. That just seems to go on forever, doesn't
it? Something like that, yes.
What's the red wedding? That's the question.
Oh, you're all hoping it'll turn into a red wedding.
Oh my God! Imagine if there's a Galnet article and it's just a systematic slaughter of every character.
Well, it's one way of finishing off people's story arcs that have been left hanging all these
exactly.
years, isn't it?
David Braben just drops the mic and walks out.
Yeah. So, overall, everybody's quite happy with all this then?
Yep. Yeah. Seems pretty good.
I mean, it's been predictable, but it's been all right. Yeah.
Excellent. So we wait with bated breath for the next couple of news drops, I think. Is anybody else taking part in the CG?
I am doing the
I
CG
haven't.
with Miggles right now.
Oh, right. So is that basically interdicting pirates, or are there pirate zones to go after?
I'm going. I don't know where other people are going. I'm going to. I feel like the compromised nav beacon.
Oh, right.
It's a compromised nav beacon, and pirates just sort of. They keep seeming to want to come in and get killed.
Yeah, like sort of cannon fodder. Unbelievable. Right.
Yeah, and you keep turning me down for my invitations.
You know where I am, Shan.
Yeah, but I said, Ben, come to the CG with me, and then you're like, no, don't trust you. Going.
I'm at the CG. Come, you just.
I bet if I went there, you'd jump out. I bet if I went there, you'd jump out.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Shan. We're having instancing issues, are we? Okay, I am at the CG and I'm on air.
Well, unfortunately, I'm nowhere near the CG. But anyway.
Okay, everybody.
You can bring the freight carrier pretty quickly if you want.
Right.
Just saying, you know where I am.
Right. Well, it's time to move on, which means that we have, after last week's discussion, we have something special.
Yes! Store alert!
In the bi-weekly newsletter, here come paint jobs for your art. In the bi-weekly newsletter, here come paint jobs for your art. A store alert, a store alert, a store alert, a store alert, a store alert. Which one will you buy? A store alert, 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 a store alert. Which one will you buy?
And we have to thank Commander J.
Encore.
Commander JN Trax, who sent that to me on Sunday and had me in stitches. That's my new ringtone.
That's the JN Trax involved with.
Yep. Apparently,
I'm setting you up here, Colin. It's American. Are you writing to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. JN Trax from the Loose Screws podcast. Thank you very much.
There you go.
That was genius. JN Trax, you are a visionary.
So
hang on a minute. If I've been listening to that again, and if you play it backwards, it's the words say Sandro is alive.
People are now requesting that instead of pink custard. Grant will be beside himself.
No, it's got to be beside somebody.
Well, there was newsletter 312, which I do believe everybody has looked through before. And they didn't actually have a store alert. It was a store spotlight, which just showed the latest ones.
That's nowhere near as good as Store Alert.
I know.
Store Alert still exists, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Oh, yeah. It's every other week. But I think we're going to have to use that theme tune every week from now on.
Yep.
Oh, we have to. We have to.
Agreed.
Especially since all the effort that went into making it. I mean, you can't just play it once and.
Yeah. How did you find all the barbers? That's what I want to know.
You just have to. You'll have to have a word with Jay and Trax because yeah. Amazing.
Can I put in a request that we get to at least hear that once more before the end of the show, please?
Definitely. I was just thinking at Lavecon, I think we should have, you know how like they have in boxing matches or wrestling, when someone comes into the room, they have like the theme tune, don't they, as they come into the ring? I think we should have that at Lavecon. So when Sue comes to, that kind of plays.
When I walk in dressed as a Mexican wrestler.
What with your little badge saying, I beat Obsidian Ant, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's assuming I do. This is a good segue to talk about, to go back to our wrestling section, I guess, Colin.
No, it's not. Can we please have our advert break? We'll be right back after these messages.
I was overseeing the delivery of some slaves to the starports in Exios, and a cleaning robot had just washed the floor, but not left a warning sign. I had to run after a slave that was escaping, and I slipped and fractured my wrist. I was delayed for 10 whole minutes while the Medicomp repaired the damage. My time is billable. Can I get compensation?
Yes, you can.
I was on a regular trading run back to Sol, and it was my job to repaint the outside of the ship. I was given the wrong kind of EVA clamps. Nothing bad actually happened, but it did give me a fright. Can I get compensation?
Yes, you can.
I was checking some robots through customs when I distinctly heard an official call the robots clanks. I was deeply offended, even though I'm not a robot myself. That's their word. You're not allowed to use it. Can I claim for moral outrage?
Yes, you can. At Cowell and McGrath, we are now taking any kind of legal action. No case too small, no justification too frivolous. If you've been lightly inconvenienced, embarrassed, or in any way put out, then someone should be made to give you money. Don't be a stupid clank.
Excuse me?
Cowell and McGrath, taking on any case, playing the percentages.
The Federal Navy. We want you for Adventures Unlimited.
Just last week I was mixing Sidewinder slammers at a seedy space bar. I wasn't even pilot registered. And now I have a ship and a basic starting mission for the Federal Navy.
Owing to recent actions in the Lave region, the Federal Navy now seeks to recruit another 1,000 entry-level pilots. We need you to add your strength to our military machine.
I'm going to see the galaxy.
We have missions for all pilots, regardless of combat experience or flight hours. Come and talk to us and we'll get you on the military ladder. Join the Federal Navy. Make a real pilot of yourself, or die trying.
Wait, what's that? Is that a ship coming? Are they looking for me? What do they...
Eddie Lee Wise here. Our family-run business looks after all your sartorial needs. Whether you need something to turn your pink python purple, or you want to wrap your buns up in a nice tight flight suit, my husband Ken can sort you right out. He's an expert at inside leg, and my wife Barbs is a whiz with a sewing machine. Bespoke tarting for you and your ship. Visit Eddie and Sons, plus me daughters, at Lave Station. Right, sir. Cough, please.
And welcome back. That's part of our main discussion this week. We came up with an idea that last week. I mean, after Odyssey is out the way, well, not out the way, after it's been released, and they've got a lot of the appropriate bug fixes, which will inevitably come. We wondered, well, what you would like Frontier to focus on next. Now, we put this into a thread on the forums and put it out on Twitter. And we had about 130 responses on the forums. It was quite a good one. But on Twitter, we have Omni Sensei, who was wanting great FPS content. John Jameson wanted oceans where you could submerge on water planets, or cities on inhabited worlds along with carriers and stations that orbit closer to the planets. We are mistake not wanting full atmosphere planets with weather, vegetation, and ecosystems. And we had Caramel number 1 wanting 5-a-side football matches on the fleet carrier docking bays. And Karumba wanted functional coffee makers, a throwable Rubiks Cub, or a hang-in-there comedy kitten poster. So those were the Twitter responses we had.
A Rubiks Cub?
Yeah. It's funny that, because there was something later in the overall results which I thought was quite interesting.
The Rubiks Cub is basically a bear that's just really, really hard to find. It's like a really small, hard-to-find bear.
No, I thought it was a bear that was sort of multi-jointed, and you could like twist its legs round.
Oh, it could be that.
Like,
yeah. No, you could be right. Yeah.
Right. So
I ought to just point out quickly that that David Braben actually wrote in after we posted this thread, and he just thanked us for asking the question of what did commanders want to see after Odyssey. He said, I can't remember his exact words, but he said that giving Frontier another list of completely unrealistic pie in the sky ideas and focusing players' attentions on what could come immediately after the giant piece of content that they've been working on for 3 years was really helpful and exactly what they wanted to help increase hype for their new update.
So he wanted Rubiks Cubs in there as well, did he?
He did, yeah. No, he was the main proponent for Rubiks Cubs, banging the drum for them. I want those little wriggly bears. What, you can move the arms around and stuff. He kept yelling. It was really annoying. Actually, we had to mute him.
So if you move one arm one way, does it change colour?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it goes from grizzly to polar.
Ah, okay.
The idea is that you've got to line up the limbs so that you get an all polar bear or like an all grizzly bear or whatever.
I don't want a polar bear or a grizzly bear in the cockpit with you.
They're only small. They're only cubs. They're really small.
Anyway, we, like I said, we had a massive response to this, and out of the approximately 35 or so options, we're going to have a look at the top 5. I did rate them so that answer 1 would get you 3 points, answer 2 would get you 2 points, and answer 3 would get you a point, and then added all that up so that it gives us an idea of what people were really after. So the first one, which actually I think it's going to surprise nobody, but it was walking around ships.
That's a really good idea to weight them according to how many times they're mentioned. That's a really, really great idea. And I agree with that as the top one. That is absolutely what I'd like to see as well.
Are we going to have a graph of these? Are we going to have sort of a Colin stand up and go, next slide, please, and have a little graph of them?
Graphs do work famously well on podcasts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Next thing you had was basically man types furiously and looks stuff up on internet while on air. Because typing is exciting, isn't it, Sue?
It's terrible gameplay. Terrible gameplay.
It's even word podcasting. Number 1 option is. I'll be putting this list up on the in the show notes and up on the thread as well. So Ventura's there go, oh God, no, shut up. You'll go back on and hacking again. The number 1 option was with like walking around ships next. I mean, that is going to be quite a bit of work. And what's the gameplay that would be attached to that? Because having had the headset on and I've walked around the bridge, I thought, yeah, that's okay. But, I've done it once.
Well, if you look at what Karumba said, you've got 3 things you could do in there with walking around the ship. You can make a cup of coffee. You can try and find your Rubiks Cub. And You can maybe create your own. Yeah, maybe create your own kitten poster.
So, what's the gameplay? Shoot self. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just every time I hear somebody say, "What's the?" Oh, I don't know why you all want walking around ships. How stupid! What's the gameplay involved? I'm like, guys. I mean, how many times do people have to go and play Star Citizen and come back and tell me that at least in concept it isn't pretty cool, and then think about EVA, think about sustaining damage and needing to hop out of the airlock and navigate your way around the outside of the ship. Think about boarders. Think about pirates boarding your ship and having to fight them off. Think about actually going to see the passengers in the passenger lounges. Think about having to go down and get your blowtorch out and do repairs. Think about walking through your cargo hold and seeing the things that you've just picked up in port. Think about your spaceship becoming a real place rather than just your avatar floating around the game. I'm just going to go shoot myself.
No, because I thought shoot self was one of the game.
It could be. I mean, it could be.
Well, you need player agency. You need to be able to let players.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to enable player failure, and if player failure involves me shooting myself through absolute bloody misery at the number of times I've had to justify walking around spaceships, then so be it. Count me in.
Ben, off you go. Or have we lost Ben?
Does Ben even exist? I swear all he does every show, we just hear him say something about beans, and then he's gone. I'm pretty sure it's just a soundbite that Norman plays, and there's actually no real Ben.
He throws in a smut grenade and then runs away.
Yeah, he doesn't exist. Absolutely, Ben is mythical. He's a bot.
100% with Suv there on both accounts, actually. But yeah, anyone who thinks there isn't gameplay in running around your ship hasn't got an imagination. Seriously, I mean, there is so much potential that could be there. And I mean, Suv's listed a lot of it, but just even if we want to just boring things in inverted commas, your ship is damaged, well, you break out your wrench and you start hitting things with it.
Yeah, I mean, from gameplay perspective, another one that's actually very popular is if you think of your ship as if you like your player housing, then as you do features, you kill a Thargoid or whatever. Housing. Well, yes, I'm saying if you think of it as player housing,
we sleep there.
In other games, your player housing becomes your collection, your display cabinet for your achievements in game. So therefore, your walking around your ship is a way of demonstrating your achievements in game.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's the obvious solution for player housing, and as far as Elite is an MMO, even apart from the enormous opportunities for gameplay, just in terms of role playing and giving you somewhere to call a home, there's tremendous opportunities there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Suv, but I want a fresh Thargoid heart in my cabin.
Yeah, I want it beating. I want bright green corrosive blood splashing all over my wall while I spin the limbs on a miniature bear as quickly as I can.
Right, just to point out, the total for that one we calculated at 58. Okay,
right.
Just to give you an idea, the next one down was 34. So there was an awful lot of people. It was the winner by far and beyond.
Good. Lots of sensible space people. We like that. Well done, listeners.
Well, the next one was another one which is being requested on the forums quite a lot, and that is full VR walking around. So obviously, the full VR suite being brought.
Walking around where?
On planets, on ships.
In ships as well. So how much of those 34 points we are walking around shall we allocate to walking around ships then? Because if you're including VR walking around ships, then those points ought to go to walking around ships, not VR walking around.
Shan, don't be picky on this, because we know that as soon as you get out of the seat, you are going to flat screen. And that would mean the same if they were walking around ships. So when they mean VR walking around, they mean the proper VR experience, not the flat screen.
So does it also include interacting with your Rubiks Cubs in VR?
Yeah, it will mean that it's the
Not for
same way
VR.
that VR playing No Man's Sky in VR is different. You have a different interface. The way that you use the way you interact with your hands and your gloves and fly the ship is completely different from the way that you do it on flat screen version.
I go along with that. It's the
I have
first
to ask
time.
the question of what's the gameplay?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Is integrating the gameplay in a VR way, isn't it? It's exactly the same gameplay as before, but
Completely immersive Rubik's Cub solving.
Yeah. So we can give Suv his Rubik Cub.
You just want to yank that Rubik's Cub leg off, don't you?
Yeah,
I do, absolutely.
He wants to stroke his Rubik's Cub.
I do. I want a pet Rubik's Cub.
Ah, dear. Right. Well, the next one was actually not that far down. It was 33. This one, more planet types. Now, for that, I just covered everything because basically everyone's saying, "Oh, we want lava planets, or we want full Earth type worlds," but effectively more planet types to be landed on and to explore. So that really is the full No Man's Sky thing, isn't it? Really.
Hopefully less 1960s
concept album.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, walking. That's exactly it. Because you know what, walking around No Man's Sky last week, I was there thinking, this entire game reminds me that I'm living in a Rush album.
Yeah.
I like that it's not gives you the impression that you're living in a Rush album. It reminds you that you're living in a Rush album.
I am not going to go any further into it due to recreational substances and the album 2012. I take the fifth. That's living in it. I mean, obviously, I can't. After the in-depth discussion that we had with Dr. K last week, we know that this is a big ask, though, isn't it?
Is it? I mean, is it as big an ask as say? Is it as big an ask as say the interiors of all the spaceships?
Bigger, I'd say.
I would say bigger.
Okay.
Once again, Frontier have to ask, what can we do on these planets? Why are we on these planets? What are we doing on them? To coin a phrase, what's the gameplay?
If I could banish one philosophy from Elite Dangerous, it would be, what's the gameplay?
If I can make a non-spoiler comment on the list,
go on.
None of these suggestions, these things that the players thought they wanted done after Odyssey, was finding new ways to shoot people with weapons.
Funny that, isn't it? Although there is actually something down the bottom, which I suppose we could talk about. Someone was complaining that they wanted the pirates and the AI to be better.
That's in ships, not on ground.
Oh, I thought you said. All right, you were referring to only on ground. Fair enough.
Yeah, I was just thinking all of these on the list are not combat related in terms of the gameplay that we have been shown or anything. It's all to do with adding flavor, adding spacey things to do other than the...
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. So I thought I'd throw that in there as a thought.
No, that's a very good observation because it didn't occur to me. I mean, maybe crime and punishment is something that, but that's well down the list actually. Surprisingly enough, though, the next one, power play. That came in at
power play. Power play. It seems that everything's gone wrong since power play came along.
There we go. There's a new song for everybody.
Two, do you need to go on Britain's Got Talent or Diso's Got Talent? There you go.
I should go on Britain Has Absolutely No Talent at All. I would be
Diso's got no,
really good on that.
Diso's Got Talent. There you go.
I must have very niche actor there, though. What do? I sing songs based around a computer game.
No, I sing songs exclusively around monetization and power play.
Oh, that'll interest all three people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can we say about it? There is a demand out there that power play gets a second pass. It's quite a big demand, actually. But then again, this is all from the forums and the power play people. It wasn't all Rubbernuke. I'll just point that out. It wasn't Rubbernuke putting 3 or 4 posts in the thing. He only posted once, but.
I did like his post though.
Yeah, power play. So that was all 3.
Yeah.
Did you weight it accordingly, given that it was?
Yes.
Given that it was. Yeah,
did you actually give him that?
The next one was actually quite interesting because it was the colonization mechanics or base building. Now, a lot of
Am I just making bases a bit more like Colin?
Colonization.
Is that like Rimmer World?
Oh no, that is going low there, Shan. That is really hitting below the belt. No, obviously, when the Kickstarter came along, they sort of said that they would come up with an automated process that as soon as a system had reached its potential, or had reached a certain level, then humanity would start to spread out to the next system along, and after a period of time, you see bases beginning to form and all that kind of stuff. Sort of a kind of extension of the BGS. That seemed to have been dropped because I remember questions about it in the DDF, and obviously personal base building. Well, they said it wasn't in. We don't know whether it was planned to be in or dropped. But what does everybody think of that one?
Well, where's the gameplay in base building, Colin? Where's the game? It's just none at all, is there?
There's plenty of stuff to do with base building.
I actually don't think Elite needs base building if you do ship interiors properly. If ship not shit interiors. Don't want to.
Yeah, we're not inside Lavecon.
No. If ship interiors are done properly, then they could potentially be quite modular environments where you can customize them to your heart's content, and presumably very profitably for Frontier in terms of cosmetics. And actually, I don't really see. I've never really seen a great deal of purpose for base building in Elite Dangerous. If loads of people that just stand up and shout, "No, we really want it. We love base building," then absolutely go for it. And I definitely think that it is one of the most robust parts of No Man's Sky as an experience. But just in terms of the richness of Elite Dangerous and the kind of experience that Elite is, I've never felt personally, what I really need to be able to do is build a base in this game. I feel like if ships are done possibly, it'll done properly, it will absolutely scratch the same itch.
That's a good point, Ben.
The only thing I would say about base building in Elite is we're a chuffing commander. We're not the mayor of a city. We're not God. We're a commander in a spaceship. Yeah, I love base building games. One of my most favorite games with my most hours is RimWorld, which is only about building bases. My second favorite game with the second most number of hours is Prison Architect. And again, that's about building bases. I don't need that in Elite Dangerous, though. Elite Dangerous is about flying spaceships, damn it.
Or running around on ground, shooting at people.
And soon to be running around. It's about it's about the single player experience, even if you're playing with friends.
It's about fish haulage.
And mugs. You're not the mayor of a city.
Yeah, just following up on what Ben was saying about base building. Yes, because currently in game, your ship is your character. Essentially, it defines your class, etc. And I'm unsure as to what base building would do other than having a fleet carrier that's permanently landed somewhere. And I can see how people would say, "Hey, this is my planet. Look, it's got my base with my flag on it. Aren't I great?" But that seems an awful lot of programming effort. Program. It is because if you think about it, your base would have to exist in open, solo, and in every single private group, and you'd have to somehow manage that.
Yeah, and also the fact that if you do have a base, and we're not on about simply building a house here, we're on about creating a kind of semi-outpost, aren't we?
Yeah, I think when David Braben discussed it, he talked about those inflatable little habs that you see on some of the planet surfaces.
Yeah,
that was years ago.
But also, it would have an issue for the background simulation as well, because if you had your base on a planet which was taken over by a faction, would your base be taken over by that faction, or would it sort of somehow be independent? And I don't know. It has all sorts of background simulation issues around it.
I don't think the background simulation thing would be the issue. I think the issue would be what happens if someone comes in and solo totals your base, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because you've got your base there. Someone's decided, I don't like the fact that you got your base there, but I'm not going to let you defend it. So because I'm going to fly in and solo and total it while you're in.
Well, that's always happened. That's always happened in MMOs because you get people who invade a territory out of hours when a guild or a clan or whatever you want to call it is asleep. So they know the Lave Radio private group sleeps between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So they'll just come on at midnight in their time and take it when no one's around. So that always happened, and it's very difficult to provide a balanced way of countering that.
Yeah, well, the list did actually show up a couple of interesting suggestions. The one that really got me the most was that people requested cockpit cats/pets. That there was more demand for that than crossplay.
Are we back to Rubiks Cubs again?
Yeah, we're back to Rubiks Cubs again. Caves wasn't that high up in the list either. That did surprise me.
Caves are cool, but they're just that. They're just cool. For me, caves come under the same category as a new gun or a new spaceship. They're cool content, but they're not grand new spheres of gameplay. Like they are pretty cool, but they're not comparable to the other things on the list. I don't think, for me at least.
Yeah,
they're scenery, aren't they?
Yeah, there was a lot of demand for stealing ships and salvaging ships or salvaging wrecks in space. That was interesting.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea. I think that'd be really fun. But not if your ship was stolen. But to have that in game, I think it'd be a fun thing to guard against.
And one of the other things that people were really wanting were galaxy map improvements, which means, sorting out your bookmarks or basically making the user interface easier.
Mac has just said an important thing about pets. The trouble with pets in the cockpit is if the canopy blows out, they get sucked out into space, and that would be tragic.
Thanks, Mac.
Your space cat going whoop.
Not if they had like cat remlock suits. Not if they had cat remlocks on or something.
I'm sorry, I've just got in my head. Meow. You can tell I'm not a cat person.
Be like Garfield, wouldn't it, at the window?
Yeah, the Garfield on the outside.
Oh, the Babylon 5 episode, didn't they? When they tossed the bear into space and it went back in the
What, the
canopy
Babylon
of the
5?
Star View. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. Ventura suggested I would obviously have to have a bunny. Oh, he wouldn't say anything; he'd just go. So yeah. What should be the community question? What pet do you want to see explode before your face? Right. I think we'll move on to the community corner next. So if we've got a little of time for
Sorry, Colin. There's a couple
go
more.
on.
One thing that I think would be very, very useful, and people have been asking for years, although surprisingly didn't get many votes, was multiple commanders.
Yeah, that was 25 down the list. Now, there's only 2 people who basically thought it was kind of in the middle. I think everyone's got used to actually buying extra commanders at the moment.
I
And
guess
as
so,
long
but
as
people.
Yeah, the problem is as long as people buy new commanders, Frontiers won't give you that. Mind you, on the Xbox and on the PlayStation, you can have multiple commanders, can't you?
Can you?
Yeah. I know you
Interesting.
can on the Xbox. I'm not sure about the PlayStation.
Huh, that's really interesting.
And the other 2 that are surprising for me, anyway, before we wrap up, was Better Squadrons was down at 38, which either means people don't like Squadrons and kind of given them up on them being improved, or they think the current Squadron mechanic is okay.
Well, no, I mean it's still on the list, which means it's not great.
But it's the penultimate one on the list, though.
Yeah, there was only one person who thought Squadrons needed improving. I mean, to be honest, isn't it just the numbers that need to be improved with Squadrons, or?
No, it's the things like being able to have multiple squadrons per commander. That sort of thing. I think is what I mean.
That kind of thing. Yeah, I remember now.
That's how I interpret it anyway. I mean, I'm not sure about the detail behind it, but that was what I interpreted as better squadrons, or better squadron management, perhaps, would have been a possible explanation. The other one I thought is sorely missing is having the ability to reject passengers into space. And even that includes human player passengers as well, I hope.
Actually, is that something that I missed off the list? Because I remember someone actually did
Definitely
suggest
mentioned, because I made a reply in the forum saying, what about turning them into foodstuffs?
that. Yeah. I must have missed that one. I do apologise. What was that about robots on the pole?
There were a couple of suggestions that were out there. So one person who we will leave nameless, although if you want to find out who they are, you can find their post, is wanting to make relations with our NPC, and if that relation were good, then she could walk around their ship or cockpit just wearing their underwear.
Okay, someone's been playing Mass Effect a lot more.
Another one. Yep, go Sean.
Sounds like Second Life in space to me.
I would like to downvote that idea.
Another one, and I have to admit, I thought this was actually quite an epic idea, was robotics. In particular, robots with body curves of my liking, to be purchased in every station, together with cockpit accessories like a dancing pole.
Oh my god, you want fembots or
they want fembots,
male bots in the
But the best idea I think was a big jetpack on your back and skis for Ice Worlds. And I think that would just be so epic. We need that in game.
That would be really, really good fun. That's more of what Shan calls cardboard box stuff. I would love that.
Oh god, yeah, that would be awesome. Whereabouts were more SRVs, by the way, on the list?
That was actually number 9 on the list.
Okay.
So it wasn't that far down, but I thought that would be up a lot higher.
Yeah.
I mean, was there any surprises? I mean, you've all got access to that list. Is there any surprises that you thought, oh, I didn't expect that to be there?
explore gas giants and water worlds are expected to be further up.
It wasn't
isn't that
surprised
under
to
the
me.
planet types? Rather than specifically things.
Yeah, but those were the ones that people specifically asked for. They wanted basically you to be able to dive underwater on the water worlds with your spaceship. So I thought that was a bit, and to basically mine the gas in a gas giant.
Yeah, well, that's the gameplay of it, isn't it?
There's the gameplay. Anyway, okay.
What
move
sorry,
on.
just sorry, I haven't done much mining recently. What's the attraction for small seismic charges? Is it simply because it means you can have a greater variety of mining ships, or what's the thought behind that then? Do you know?
I just assumed that it meant that you could go mining in a tiny ship. Because at the moment you need what? Is it class 2? It's at least a class 2, isn't it?
Maybe it means you can have a better variety of ways of mining. Because if you're limited to class 2, then there's some ships that even though you can ramp up with seismic charges and other stuff.
Colin just said.
Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking. Well, you said smaller ships, and I was thinking, well, there are some ships that are quite big, but actually are ineffective miners because of the.
Of course, because you got the Type 7 because it hasn't got any class 2s, but it'd be a good mining ship otherwise.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you look at number 34, Shan, there's your eject passengers.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Actually, a good thing to do would be to be able to chase them around a ship and then trap them in an airlock and then press the button and watch them get sucked out.
So basically, there you've highlighted number 1 and number 34 in one foul swoop. Right. Okay. Well, we're going to leave this here and move on to the community section.
I could murder a cup of tea. Yorkshire Gold, if you have it. Double Yorkshire Gold. And if you don't have it, you're dead. Lave Radio, broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy.
Welcome back. Well, there's not much we originally were going to have Karen on at this point to explain what's happening with Lavecon, but and obviously Tyne was against us, and she had to dash. So so just to reiterate, as long as everything goes to plan with the government guidelines, Lavecon will be on this year. Fingers crossed. The other thing to discuss is the Dark Wheel Initiative. They have swept the war at 4-0 in Ross 154 and climbing an instance in that system. This is the expansion to test Sol.
And when will that be happening? Other than it's happening now, but when does that look to be concluded?
Well, I'm afraid to say that's all we had reported to us. So that's that was the Dark Wheel.
Chat, so Kai can probably answer that in Twitch chat if he hears and gets around to us in time.
So, just before we finish off tonight, does anybody have any other business that they would like to discuss?
I do.
Okay.
No, you sound that with dread in your voice. Actually, it was in response to one of the points that was raised last week about instancing because of different PEGI ratings for the game. Like the Elite Main is a 7, and well, I would have thought the obvious answer would be make Elite more violent to bring it up to the level of Odyssey. Because if you can't bring Odyssey down to Elite's level, bring Elite up. I don't know. Maybe have people exploding in spacesuits with jam everywhere. That whatever it is, just make it more violent to bring the rating up.
Shan, I'm going to maybe be slightly hypocritical considering what I've literally said 10 seconds ago, but Kai is suggesting that Frontier tries releasing a free DLC that basically equalizes Elite Dangerous's age rating. And and basically the idea is you take that free DLC to Elite Dangerous, and most people will say, I take this DLC, and all of a sudden Elite Dangerous is now a 15. So, when our ships explode, we can see limbs and blood and gore flying everywhere.
But would that...
And that would obviously be in situation... That would be the same as what we're getting with Odyssey.
How would that affect the overall rating for Elite, though? And would you still effectively... I don't know. I need to think about that one. Because if you've got an optional content...
If you're going to ask me a question, let me bloody well answer it!
Go on, then.
Basically, by having that DLC in there and having it available as a free DLC to the base game, you are bringing the base game up to that level. And if you don't want it, then obviously you're not going to be buying Odyssey, but you're not going to be getting the blood and guts coming out of Commander's cockpits as well.
Okay, I'm going to just put a slight caveat in all this. Do you see them actually having the time to do this? We've got approximately 6 weeks to maybe the alpha. 11 to 12 weeks to when the release is supposed to happen. I think that I'm afraid to say at this point, that stuff's set in stone, and we won't see any option to be able to mix Horizons people with Odyssey people on planet.
But hold on, Colin. Didn't you say last week they haven't decided on the death mechanic yet?
Exactly. If they haven't, they've got. I don't think that they've got the time to be able to do that.
Well, you just choose a body part that makes it an instant increase in Peggy rating, don't you? You don't need to
You
do
took
the
somebody's
whole.
cockpit out and you see their cock pitting out of the window.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking of head. And not that sort of head either.
Okay. Oh, gee. I thought we were doing so well. I thought we were doing so well at this point, but obviously not.
I wasn't even thinking of it.
Right. So, I think we'll leave the question of the week because actually, to be honest, I'm scared. So I think we'll just give our shout-outs. So first of all, our sister station, Hutton Orbital Radio. It broadcasts on a Thursday at 8:30 GMT. You can tune in at twitch.tv/Hutton Orbital Truckers, or if you just want the audio, go to radio.forthemug.com. For the discerning commander that likes a bit of CQC action, check out the CQC Discord at discord.me/Elite Dangerous CQC. If you want a literary discussion about science fiction and fantasy books, please subscribe to the Data Slate podcast created by Station Commander Alan Stroud. We'll also give shout outs to Loose Screws, Elite Week, Flight Assist, who have started up again. We have the Elite Cast for Spanish speakers, the Canon podcast, the Fatherhood podcast, Squeaking Fuel, then the Guard Frequency, and Allograb AM, which is another Elite Dangerous podcast. So, following on from this, we have the latest Galnet News Digest that's provided by Commander Witherspoon and Commander Beetlejude. And we'd also like to thank everybody who's chipped in on Twitch, and obviously Commander Miggles for escorting Ben all the way through the Sirius system. So that's it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, then you can email info@laveradio.com. You can hit us up at facebook.com/laveradio. Tweet us at Lave Radio, and you can join our Discord server by going to discord.io/laveradio. We have a TeamSpeak server where commanders like to chat, which you can find at teamspeak.laveradio.com. Now, do get in touch if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like us to discuss in a future episode. Lave Radio is recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 GMT and streamed out at laveradio.com/live. So thanks to Ben, thanks to Souverine, thanks to Shan, and thanks to Karen for turning up. And special thanks goes to our tech specialist, Commander Ventura. So until next time, Commanders, fly safe. And if you can't do that, fly dangerous.
Store alert!
In the bi-weekly newsletter, here come paint jobs for your art. In the bi-weekly newsletter, here come paint jobs for your art. A store alert, a store alert, a store alert, a store alert, a store alert. Which one will you buy? A store alert, 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 a store alert. Which one will you buy?
Is your life like this?
Sounds like someone having an orange inserted. You need a safe word. Space can be loaded. I'm going to see the galaxy.
Ah, damn it. No worries, guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Forget the Uranus talk. This is the new outro. According to scientists, Uranus is full of methane gas.
You've been dying for something to replace your Uranus.
I think you're right, though, Colin.
What have you done with Shan, and when can we have him back? I don't know. I'm quite attached to this one, to be honest.
Yeah, that butt clenching really was awesome.
I'm here, Wotherspoon. Yes, I'm about to land on Pamesh 2C. Oh my god, I just tried to deploy my landing gear. The button's mapped to boost. News Digest, 2nd of March, 3307. We read the news so you don't have to.
In this week's news, 100% pirate free.
Mass Manager Magic.
Hugh Janus.
What about weapons? 100% pirate free. Due to the excellent network of bounty hunters, the Sirius system, where the Galactic Summit is being held, has now been completely free of all pirates for 5 days in a row. The Sirius Corporation, working in association with the Federal Navy, is keeping a close eye on the situation. Were there any significant presence of pirates in the system, the Galactic Summit would of course have to be terminated early, so it is very important that there continue to be no pirates whatsoever. Sirius is aware that commanders have earned 500 billion credits in bounties since last Thursday, but that figure in no way implies that there is any problem with pirates. So if commanders just continue to keep on killing the not pirates as quickly as they can, that would be lovely, thank you. Sirius Corporation wishes to thank commanders for their ongoing vigilance and hopes they will enjoy their Viper Mark III paint jobs. It apologises for the inclusion of Federal assault ships as prizes. Apparently, the Federation insisted.
Mass Manager Magic. Commanders who plan to make the effort to buy the new fully engineered 5A frameshift drive from human technology brokers around the galaxy are reminded that there's only a little over a week left to get the special introductory rate. For those commanders who've already bought one or more of these special modules, don't forget that you can add an experimental effect that makes the drive even better. To do this, you need to visit an engineer who can configure frameshift drives. Elvira Martuk, Felicity Farseer and Mel Brandon are the obvious choices. Head straight to the Mass Manager aisle, taking with you those atypical disrupted wake echoes, the galvanising alloys and the eccentric hyperspace trajectories you've been carrying around for ages and always knew would come in handy eventually. And get yourself another few light years of jump distance on an already amazing jump drive. Of course, you can never jump as far as a fleet carrier, not even with jumponium or neutron star boosts. But with a little effort, you can cross the galaxy a lot faster than a fleet carrier. And without all that annoying waiting about.
Hugh Janus. The Pilots Federation is breathing a sigh of relief after they announced the 5 commander names that will be used to name settlements and other locations when Odyssey permits are released. The names were drawn from a hat, but somehow the toast didn't land butter side down, and none of the names selected could be construed as rude or capable of any sort of innuendo. Somehow, amazingly, Mike Roch remained in the hat. Mike Roch remained in that Wotherspoon. I'm in an escape pod and you give me Mike Roch remained in the hat. Lost my ship on some ridiculous jaunt of yours. I bet you're reading the one about weapons. As did Seymour Butts and I.P. Freely. And the perfectly normal sounding names chosen were Gibbs, Geeson, Tashieri, Blaise and Heighton. In other news, the Pilots Federation has come up with a method of commemorating commanders, and quite likely small furry animals who are no longer with us. All you need to do is post a name on a forum thread, and in due course it will appear on a scrolling laser display board replicated across a number of prominent systems. Seems to be a pretty foolproof system, and importantly, it won't distract folk in the Pilots Federation who are supposed to be working on those Odyssey landing permits. I hear they only have an A4 laminator. The beacons will be installed by the end of March in the Sol, Achenar, Alioth, Shinrata Desra, Colonia, Asalus Primus, Dromi and Hugh Janus systems.
What about weapons? In its continuing series of Odyssey primers for commanders about the correct etiquette when visiting planets, the Pilots Federation has released a guide about how weapons are used in settlements and away from no-fire zones. Here's what they said. Will there be weapons for shooting at vehicles like SRVs or spaceships?
All weapons can be used against ships, but some, such as your biological Dyson scanner, are far less effective than shoulder-mounted rocket launchers and grenades. Who'd have thought?
If we throw a grenade at an unshielded ship, will it do a lot of damage?
Yes, it will.
Will everyone get a gun?
Yep, everyone will get a little gun, which we call a sidearm. Even the pacifists.
Will there be melee weapons?
What sort of melee weapons would you like? Broadswords, scythes, spears, pikes, clubs, maces, morning stars, flails? This is not the Middle Ages, you know. You can probably use that sidearm as a club, though.
What kinds of explosives will there be?
There will be rocket launchers, and there will be grenade. You might remember from a previous answer that they're good against spaceships.
Will the aiming reticule always be visible? And is it pronounced reticule or reticle?
The reticule is an important part of your HUD, and it's used to help you select objects as well as blow them away with a blast of laser fire, so it will always be visible. It's pronounced reticule if you come from the Empire or Alliance, but reticle if you're from Federal space, because they get confused there between gun sights and handbags. They also call cocks roosters to avoid a similar confusion.
Can you actually look down a gun sight?
Yep, you can. And if you invest in a bit of engineering, you can choose a sight that's ideal for your preferred sort of shooting at things.
What sorts of weapons are there?
There will be pistols and rifles and shotguns and rockets. These are a few of our favourite things. There will be a whole lot more, though, and we'll tell you all about them at another time.
Can we upgrade our weapons with attachments?
Yes, you can, but the screws that hold the attachments cannot be removed later, so you'll be stuck with any modifications you make. You can, of course, have several variants of the same weapon, differently customised in your gun rack, but you won't be able to carry them all at the same time, not unless you employ someone else to carry them around for you. And you're not allowed to do that.
Can I casually drop some ammo and grenades for my friends to pick up?
Yes, you can. It's considered polite to drop things rather than just hand them over. For a really good prank, why not remove the firing pin before dropping a grenade for your friend to pick up? They'll be ever so cross.
And that's this week's Galnet News. Galnet News, we read the news so you don't have to.
Wotherspoon, you are going to get me out of here, aren't you?
Oh, you get all sorts here. Smells like it too. Mirth, horrible stains, marigolds.
Whose birthday you go? Donkey Dick.
It says here, next.
My dear man, Cox.
Like an obese child.
No. Teabag.
Fluffy hat. It's the 34th century.
Fix that.
Patient.
Nada.
Sounds majestic, because it is, Michelle.
This is Beyond Dockers.
Beyond Dockers, a mockumentary podcast available at bs-dockers.com. Also on iTunes.
Night all.